Congressman, thank you for sitting down with us. Governor, why do you want that role?
Well, I believe it's a critical time for Tennessee. We have this great history in our state. I'm an eighth generation myself. Consider myself to be a conservative outsider, running at a time when I think we're at a critical juncture for Tennessee. We have low taxes, low regulation, a great business environment, a great social environment. People are coming to our state. But our state is growing quickly, and I think we're at risk of losing the essence of what makes Tennessee special to all of us who grew up here and for those coming if we don't manage that growth carefully and be very proactive in deciding how we want Tennessee to go forward from here.
We'll ask you more specifics, but what are the specific threats that you see are on the horizon for the state?
Well, I think whenever you have growth, lots of people coming in, a growth in business activity, you see stress and strain on the services that people expect from their government. So our education system, which I would put at the top of the list, our infrastructure, our roads and bridges, wastewater and public water, municipal water systems, solid waste disposal. These are all the things that we kind of depend on for the state to run efficiently. We have an access to health care problem in our state, particularly in rural counties across the state. We have an energy problem that is something that we haven't had to necessarily think about in the past, but increasingly we see the state forced to make decisions about which businesses we welcome and which we don't, based on whether we think we'll have the power to power those businesses going forward. And then finally, we need to continue to be very concerned about economic development. But I think we want to be in a position where we can be more selective, more choosy, if you will, about the businesses that we bring to Tennessee to be sure that they embrace the values that make Tennessee special.
Let's talk specifics since you brought them up and start with education. That is something we saw a debate on in the legislature in terms of school choice recently. You're a supporter of school choice.
I think we want Tennessee parents to have choices when it comes to their children's education. I'm the father of a 7-year-old who's in the first grade in Smith County Public Schools. I want to make sure that he has the right opportunities for education so that he can be prepared for those jobs for the future. We've got a younger son who will soon be in the education system in our county. And so we need to be sure for our children and for all of Tennessee's children and grandchildren that are out there that they're going to get the right kind of education. We can't do that, though, if we don't get public education right. And so one of the commitments I'm going to make to the people of Tennessee is that we want a Tennessee classroom teacher to be leading education in Tennessee. Someone who's had the chalk in their hand, the marker in their hand, and has been on the front lines in the classroom in Tennessee to be a leader of education in Tennessee.
Do you support Governor Lee's expansion plan for school vouchers?
Well, I think however we achieve the opportunity for choice for Tennessee parents, I think this is the proposal the governor has put forward. We want to see parents have choices so that if they're not happy with the education that their child is getting in a public system, that they can at least have some options to look at. That will suit some parents in some counties and some places and others who may want to embrace the public system.
The governor has been specific about not dipping into money that is reserved for public K through 12 education to pay for school vouchers. Is that something you would consider, or do you think there's a firm line between the two?
Well, I don't think that every answer for education is about the money we spend, but I do think we need to be sure always that we're supporting our public education system with the right financial resources to achieve success. As with anything, a lot of the success is determined by the willingness of parents to engage in their children's education and be supportive of what's happening in the classroom. I think any classroom teacher will tell you that. But we need to make sure that our public schools have the resources that they need in order to be successful.
You also brought up transportation and infrastructure. Tennessee is a state that is a pay-as-you-go state. It has been steadfast in its commitment not to build anything that it hasn't paid for. There are people who say, we should go into debt because we can't handle the number of people who are coming to this state. We need to expand our horizons when it comes to building more roads, bridges, and other infrastructure. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I think that pay-as-you-go system has served Tennessee well. You know, you can bring forward a certain amount of spending, but you only get to do that once, and then you have to service that debt through the lifetime of that debt. And so you can speed up the process a little. The question we've always got to ask ourselves is, can we spend tomorrow's resources today better than we can spend them tomorrow. And that's the choice always. And Tennesseans have always come down on the side of saying, let's pay for what we can afford now, and then let's preserve future resources to take on problems in the future as they present themselves. And we see, particularly technology evolving quickly. We may not have enough vision to the future to understand what exactly public transportation and our highway system will need to look like in years out. And if we spend those resources now, then we'll be locked in for the future.
So right now, it sounds like you support a pay-as-you-go model and not varying from that.
I think that has served us well, yes, sir.
Let's talk about agriculture. That's another major industry in our state and something that you are well versed in, your background in growing up in agriculture. Explain the importance of agriculture to people in this state and where you see it going from here.
Well, agriculture is, it surprises some people to know this, but it's still the most important industry in our state. More people, more economic activity that is coming from the farm, from our agricultural industry than any other. And so we need to make sure that farmers can thrive. They're at the root of that agricultural enterprise in Tennessee. We need to make sure that our farmers have the resources and support they need to continue to be successful. And from a state perspective, I think we've seen historically that the Tennessee Department of Agriculture can have an important role in fostering best practices among our farmers, making sure that they're adopting the technologies that will make them most productive and most profitable going forward. And so Tennessee has a role in that. We also have a role in protecting the precious resource of our farmland in Tennessee, which increasingly we see being chewed up at a really unsustainable rate by development across the state. So there's some interesting challenges there, some that we need to preserve. And again, I think this is an issue where we need to preserve what makes Tennessee strong, what makes this a state that people want to move to.
In a political question, you've been very supportive of the Trump administration and its policies. Do you think the new tariff policies are harming Tennessee farmers?
I don't think so. I think there may be some short-term pain, but as a conservative outsider who's been a steadfast supporter of President Trump, what I think he has recognized is that for our agriculture to be successful in Tennessee, we've got to open markets around the world. We've got to make sure those markets accept our products on a fair and balanced basis, the kind of reciprocal trade that the president speaks of. I was trained as an agricultural economist as a youngster when in both graduate and undergraduate school, and one of the things that I learned there is that for so many years, other countries have protected their agricultural markets from the United States. It's one of the reasons why in the last 4 years we've seen the U.S. become a net importer of agricultural products, something that has never happened in my lifetime. And it happened because the previous president did not focus on opening markets for American farmers. And so while I think there could be a little bit of short-term pain with respect to the tariffs, ultimately I think it's like so many things. You've kind of got to take the pain in order to open the markets and create access for our farmers to export the products that we produce here in the United States. It'll be good for American farmers. It'll be good for American workers because those agricultural exports create jobs for Americans.
Forgive me the agriculture analogy, but you're planting the seed early for governor. What makes you a better candidate than Senator Blackburn for that job?
Well, we can't know right now who will be a candidate in this race. I certainly am going to be. There could be many others, so I think it's a little premature to talk about other candidates. What I can offer today is that I will be a conservative outsider. I have the experience as a private business owner, a small business owner, and as a farmer, having built businesses from the ground up, having signed the front side of a paycheck, having had the vision for how to organize an organization to be successful. And I think these are the skills that Tennesseans look for when they pick a governor. And so I will offer myself and try to make the case to the people of Tennessee that I can do a good job, that I can do right by them, that the best days of Tennessee are ahead of us, not behind us. And that's the vision and the message that I'll be trying to communicate to Tennessee's voters.
How would you grade the performance of Governor Bill Lee most recently?
So Governor Lee is a good man, and I think Tennessee has prospered under his leadership. I don't think there's any denying that. You know, we have low taxes, low regulation, low debt as a state, and businesses are flocking to our state. And so I think that those objective outside assessments, I think, speak well of how Tennessee has been run.
One other policy question I want to get to is energy, and you talked about the importance of that. How critical do you think Oak Ridge and specifically TVA and nuclear energy will be to the future of this state?
Well, I think you've pointed to three very incredibly valuable assets that Tennessee has. First, let's talk about TVA. We have been blessed to have the Tennessee Valley Authority supplying energy to our state, and they've done so remarkably well for most of 100 years. We've got to make sure that continues, though. We can't take that for granted, and we can't continue to be passive in that. So we need to be active in promoting the health and success of TVA. The nuclear complex that you mentioned has been very important to Tennessee, obviously the birthplace of nuclear energy right in Oak Ridge, and so we need to continue to be leaders in that space. TVA has done an excellent job. Today, the Tennessee Valley, receives more of its power from nuclear-generated electricity than any other place in the country. So we have a good head start to build on. Oak Ridge, with lots of people participating, certainly the National Lab and our governor taking a leadership role, the University of Tennessee being highly involved, we see a resurgence of nuclear energy and development in the Oak Ridge area that I think bodes well for our future. And certainly most Tennesseans are aware that the first in the nation small modular reactor is likely to be built on the Clinch River site in Oak Ridge, and I think that's good for Tennessee. It's good for the TVA, and it helps to assure that we're going to have the energy that we need to power the businesses of tomorrow.
Lastly, before we hear from your bride, when Tennesseans hear John Rose for governor, what do you want to have run through their minds?
Well, I think I would want them to think about the fact that I'm an 8th generation Tennessean, that my forebears came here in 1790, carved out a new way of life in Tennessee, and that I'm the recipient, if you will, the inheritor of that 2+ century set of knowledge about what makes Tennessee special. And so it's personal to me and to my family. And while I celebrate our history, I think our history can point to great days ahead, and that the best days of Tennessee are ahead, because we're going to embrace the values that made Tennessee successful and continue to work to improve the state of our environment and our state for the generations yet to come.
Thank you for joining us. What should people of Tennessee know about this guy that they don't?
Well, thank you for having me, John. I'm excited to be on air, and as a UT Knoxville graduate from the master's program over in the College of Agriculture, it's always an honor to be in Knoxville. But my husband, John, there's a lot I could say about him, but I'd probably start with this. As the wife of a man who is an elected official for the people of Tennessee, I couldn't be more proud that he's my husband. And I couldn't be more honored that he's the father of our 2 boys, Sam and Guy, who run to him, call him daddy, and he always, without hesitation, shows them the love and the respect and the attention that you would hope a dad would show his kids. And I think those are the qualities that anyone would hope that a governor would have, that it starts at home and it can translate into the work they do as an elected official.
You have experienced something unique, and that is you are the wife of somebody who is elected to our country, and I know there's so much vitriol out there. What has that been like for someone on the inside to experience?
Well, I have to admit there were days when I would be, frankly, afraid for his safety. Never my own or my children, but at times there were dangerous situations that he found himself in. But ultimately it's service to our country, and there's no greater honor than that. And the service that he does and that we do as a family, we know pales into comparison of that service that people in our armed forces, for instance, give to their nation and to their states. But I'll just admit this, first of all. I was a Trump delegate at the Republican National Convention in 2024, so I am an enthusiastic supporter of what he stands for, and we wouldn't be doing this if we weren't doing this as a pair. So for me, it's a great joy to see him on that stage taking the values, the things that we believe, that we were taught growing up and at church and that our parents shared with us, and he's actually making a difference in the world, and I'm grateful for that.
Did Guy get into any trouble with you after what he did to go viral on the internet?
He got in immediate trouble, yes, are you kidding me? So he was 6 at the time, and we had just wrapped up kindergarten graduation, and I was operating a nonprofit until the end of this year and had a big week, and I I swore to John, I said, listen, he can handle this. Guy will go to Washington, he will sit dutifully by, and he will be quiet and considerate in your meetings. They had been off the plane not 2 hours when he gave that speech, and Guy had his viral moment. It was something to behold, but at the end of the day, it's my son being my son, and any parent who watches that video could probably say, absolutely, that could have been my kid.
So appreciate it. How supportive has your bride been in your bid for governor?
Well, absolutely the most supportive person, my best friend and best supporter. And I think it's safe to say I couldn't do what I'm doing now, and I couldn't run for governor without her support every day, and the support of my family more largely, but Chelsea makes that all possible.
For people who are uncertain about the future, Chelsea, how do you reassure them that this is the man who can lead this state?
Well, I hope that he is. I of course, am biased, and I believe that. But the thing that I would say is that his daily life is a testament to the kind of governor that he would be. He prioritizes certain things in his life, and these are things that we call Tennessee values. It starts with our faith, our belief in God, and that we're one nation under God, and that the blessings we enjoy as both a state here in Tennessee and as a nation come from our Lord and Savior. And so he starts his day that way, and he approaches all things with, I should treat others in a way that I want to be treated. And because of our roots in faith and in Tennessee and what some will call Southern hospitality, but we really call those Judeo-Christian values, I think that he'll be the kind of governor who will, at the end of the day, put the needs of Tennesseans first and think, what's best for them, not just what's best for me.
Is there anything I haven't brought up that either of you think is important to talk about in terms of your race for governor?
Well, I think because of our shared background, we have a deep tie to Tennessee's agriculture. We've talked about that a little, but we both know people all across the state in all 95 counties. And it's not just about knowing them, but it's about understanding what's important to them, the values that they share with us, the values that they hold, what they want to see for the future of this state. And with that informed view about where Tennesseans want to see the state go, I think it puts us in a good position to chart a course together for Tennesseans where we can make a difference and be certain that the Tennessee that we have a generation from now is not that different from the one we have today in terms of the livability of our state.
Is there one specific policy that you can say on day one will be what you're going to carry through the campaign and implement on day one as governor?
Absolutely. We've already talked about education, which I think is by far the most important issue and challenge we face as a state. We want to see a Tennessee classroom teacher lead the education system in Tennessee. So you'll see us search for and find someone who's held the marker, who's held the chalk in the classroom, and who has that understanding about what makes schools in our state work, leading the education system in our state.
Well, I appreciate both of you sitting down with us. Thanks so much for doing so, and best of luck.
Thank you. It's a privilege.
Absolutely.
Yeah.